Okay, one of the questions I get asked all the time after a DUI arrest is, hey, can I continue to drive? So I thought I'd make this quick video. It applies to anybody who holds a Nevada license. For an out-of-state driver, I'll make a different video and explain that. But for a Nevada license holder, here's how it works. First thing we need to know is, did you do a breath test? Now, by a breath test, I don't mean the handheld device that the officer asks you to blow into at the side of the road. I mean you were next to a machine. Usually occurs at the jail, but now they have some in the back of a van or in an SUV. But that is an official breath test, and they would have taken your license if you had your license on you, and you probably have a pink piece of paper, and you're wondering, can I drive? Well, the way that it works is that you have 7 days to make a request for a hearing. Your license is good for 7 days. It's a temporary license. But during that 7 days, you need to make a request to DMV for a DMV hearing. By doing that, you will be allowed to continue to drive on a temporary license that they will provide to you. So if you have a breath test, an official breath test, not the handheld preliminary breath test, then that is something that we can do. You would just give us a call, we'd get started on it, and we'd help you with a DMV hearing. The next thing that could happen, did you do a blood test? Now, if you did a blood test, we need to know one of two things. First, did you agree to do the blood test? Because if you agreed to do the blood test, then the way that it works is your license is fine. You can continue to drive just as you've been doing. Eventually, DMV will send a letter to your last known address. So you need to make sure that DMV has your correct address. As long as they have your correct address, you'll get something in the mail. When you get that in the mail, usually it takes at least a couple months, sometimes up to 6 months, sometimes even longer. They will tell you you're in suspension. Now, when you get that notice, which will come in the mail, you need to let us know, because then we need to make a request for a DMV hearing. But in the meantime, you are okay to drive. Just make sure DMV has your correct address. And if you're ever concerned about it, you can always contact DMV and ask about the status of your license. So that brings us to what happened if you refused. What happens if the police had to go and ask a judge in order to get your blood? Well, then you have what's called a refusal. And on a refusal, under Nevada law, that suspension starts right away. So you would need to let us know immediately that you refused. Now, you might not think you refused. That's just what it's called in Nevada. I'm not saying that you were violent or upset or anything like that. I'm just saying that the officer made a claim that they asked you to do a test. You didn't, and they went and got a warrant. If that happens, we need to know right away to check on your license. Now, sometimes there's a little bit of a delay from the officer taking that paperwork and getting it over to the DMV. So you might be okay to drive, but you might not be. And so that's a reason we want to check with DMV. Because whether you did a breath test, whether you did a blood test, whether you did a refusal, if you are caught driving when you're in suspension, you've committed a new crime. And that new crime carries potential jail time. It also carries a loss of your driver's license for an additional year. So it's very important that you do not do those things. So just kind of a brief checklist at the end of this. 1, did you do a breath test? 2, did you do a blood test? 3, did you agree to do the test, or was this considered a refusal? And then finally, always, always, always make sure that DMV has your correct address, because that's where they will send all the notice. As always, if I can help you, please give me a call. That's what I'm here for. So thanks for listening.